Claire Lopez is here to talk about the Iranian threat inside the United States and whether or not they really are targeting Donald Trump, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and other members of the administration. This is serious, and the threat is still ongoing. She's going to explain why. Claire Lopez, you and I have discussed the warnings about Iran, and you've talked about this actually in articles that you've written about whether or not Iran is trying to reach out inside the homeland of America to cause disruption and terror. The rumors were circulating before the attempted assassination of Donald Trump that maybe there were Iranian agents here in the country that were presenting a threat on the life of Donald Trump. And obviously, as you have pointed out many times, the assassination of Soleimani has never been officially avenged in the way that the Iranians were planning to do. In your mind, is that really a threat to the United States, to Donald Trump, to the other people that supposedly are getting protection? I believe there are several officials, including the ex-secretary of state, ex-advisors to Trump, that are under death sentences from the mullahs in Tehran. Is that a real thing?
Absolutely, that's a real thing. And you rightfully note that it was actually United States government authorities that revealed to the media that there was a more imminent, recent threat from the Iranian regime against Donald Trump. And one can understand why. The last thing on earth that regime in Tehran wants is a return to the Oval Office by Donald Trump. But yes, this does go back a ways. I mean, if you want to go way back, we know that Hezbollah, the terror Shiite Lebanese proxy of the Iranian regime, has had a massive and networked presence inside the United States for decades. But bring it up closer to the current time. And yes, after the January 2020 order by President Trump at the time for the takedown of Quds Force commander Major General Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian regime was very vocal about its intent to exact vengeance for that killing. And I have written about this before. They ran up a red flag over a mosque in Jamkaran, the place they think the 12th Imam is going to pop up at the end of history and end of times and usher in the end times, day of judgment and so forth. Ran up a red flag that has the words on it, something to the effect, "Ya Hussein, we fight with you," or something to that effect. And so that has been a real threat, absolutely. And to know then that intelligence authorities in the United States have openly spoken about a more current and updated threat to President Trump. And that's on top of, as you mentioned, Barry, the threats to other officials of the then President Trump's administration after the 2020 takedown of Soleimani, that included, as you said, former National Security Advisor and Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, also former CIA Director and former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. I think also former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, and others. I think there are a couple, at least 2, 3 more, all with 24/7 security protections since then, because that threat is still going on. It's still extant right now. And those hit teams were known to be in the United States.
Can you imagine if they were successful, even against Bolton or Pompeo or Esper?
Yeah.
It would precipitate a war.
Well, depending on who's president.
Yes, well said. or maybe not, if Biden.
Yeah, but in any case, as far as the assassination attempt against President Trump at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, some time ago now, there are other hints about potential, possible, maybe, big question mark, involvement of the Iranian regime in some way in that assassination attempt, thankfully not successful. And that is including what we know to be modus operandi, MO, of the Iranian regime, as well as the Chinese one, the CCP, and others, the Islamic State, for example, that use gaming apps online, perhaps anonymously, to influence and even recruit unsuspecting and often young people to either, some way of thinking or action. And that, I think the potential is at least there for this, because we heard Representative Mike Waltz from Florida, who was speaking in an interview to Fox show host Jesse Waters during the Republican National Convention a week ago or so. And in that interview, Representative Waltz revealed, remember, he sits on the Intel Committee, the HIPSI, in the House of Representatives. He revealed that the cell phone of Thomas Crooks, the shooter, which is in the possession of the FBI, which are, I guess, looking at it at their labs in Quantico, Virginia, that phone had on it online apps that contained connections to 3 foreign countries or entities, he might have said. We now know those countries are Germany, Belgium, and New Zealand, for whatever that's worth. I don't know.
And those the encrypted apps that they were talking about?
Encrypted apps, but he didn't explain further. Representative Waltz did not explain further. And Jesse Waters didn't pursue it further, but he did post it on his Twitter account. Jesse Waters did. So there's that.
I did see that.